10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, episode 61. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. My name is Nick Manella, and if you are new to the show, what we do here is we bring you a short and concise jazz lesson every single week, complete with downloadable PDF, all for free. And you can find those PDFs at 10minutejazzlesson.com. That's the number 10minutejazzlesson.com. This week, I'm really excited to be continuing our upper structure series. This is going to be episode 2 in a 3-episode series about playing those really interesting notes that are going to make you sound like a pro over any tune that you choose to play over. So today we're going to be talking about the minor chord. Before we jump in, let's get a little bit of housekeeping out of the way. Do you want a great way to support the podcast every single month that only costs $10? And you get something fantastic in return? Make sure you sign up for our Inner Circle membership, which you can find at our website by clicking the Inner Circle tab. Get signed up, you get a complete transcription and a vocabulary list every single month. And this week, I want to give a big shout out to one of our listeners, Janine. She sent me this great testimonial about her Inner Circle membership. And here's what she says about her Inner Circle membership every month. Janine writes, "The Inner Circle has been one of the best things I've done for my playing. I've always found it tough to convert material from transcriptions into something I can actually understand and use in my own playing. The way that Nick pulls the useful stuff out and explains what's going on has been very valuable to me. This subscription is well worth the money every month, and I'll soon have a library of transcriptions and vocabulary that will last me a lifetime. Everyone should sign up for the Inner Circle and get the same benefits I've gotten. Thanks a lot, Nick." Well, thank you, Janine, and we really want to shout you out and say thanks for being an Inner Circle member and a devoted listener to the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast every single week. So if you don't have your Inner Circle membership, make sure you go and grab it today. You can see that the benefits are wide-ranging, and it is guaranteed to improve your playing. All right, let's jump into today's episode. So today we're going to continue our lesson on upper structures. Last week we did the major 7th chord, and we found out that the extensions, the upper structures, the different notes that you can play that add a little bit of interest to the chord were 9, sharp 11, and 13. And actually the notes over the minor 7th chord, which we're going to cover today, are very similar notes, but we changed them a little bit to fit the chord that we're playing over. So over a minor chord, we still keep the 9, 11, and 13. The difference being there's no sharp 11 over the minor chord. So the sort of bass extensions, the bass upper structure, obviously there's a lot of other stuff that you can do, but we're just going for the sort of basic information that's going to get us to start using these extensions and playing some more interesting material when we're playing over a minor chord. So we're taking out the sharp 11. So our extensions over the minor chord are going to be 9, 11, and 13. And one thing about the 13 over a minor chord, it's very often called the 6. Because a lot of times you'll see a minor 6 chord. And it just goes to show you that the 6 and the 13 are kind of the same thing, right? So when you're playing, let's say you're playing a single line instrument like saxophone or trumpet or trombone or something like that, the difference between the 6 and the 13 isn't going to be as important to you as it would be to a guitar player or a pianist. It's somewhat different for them because they're going to have to figure out where to actually voice that note in their voicings. When we are playing a single line instrument, we don't have to worry about it as much. So just know that the 13 and the 6 are interchangeable in our lesson today. You can call them whatever you want. I prefer to call it the 13 because it fits in with the extensions that we're using. So when I call it the 13, I'm thinking about it as an extension, and that's going to go with recognizing both the 9 and the 11. So my preference is to call it the 13, but it is also considered the 6th, especially if you're playing that single line instrument. Okay? So we're taking out the sharp 11, putting in the natural 11, and that gives us a voicing that sounds like this. The first thing that I'm going to play on piano is a basic voicing with the left hand, and then I'm going to play through the chord tones and up into the extensions, just like you'll see on your first exercise on this week's PDF. Then the second thing I'm going to do is play all the notes together. So all 4 chord tones, 1, 3, 5, 7, and then 9, 11, 13 on top of that. All right, here's what that stuff sounds like. So again, just like last week, you can hear the richness that those extensions add to the chord. No longer is it just kind of your boring old standard minor 7th chord. Now we have some really, really interesting stuff going on over the top of it. So we're going to do the same thing as we did last week, and we're going to come up with a couple of chords that you can outline that utilize the extensions, and will give you something different to think about when you're playing over a minor chord besides just the 1, 3, 5, and 7. So the first thing we're going to look at, and this is example number 2 on your sheet, is that we're going to think about the chord tones of a B flat major 7 chord over our C minor 7 chord. Now remember, you can't really use the scale, although in this, in the minor chord, it's a little bit easier to actually use this scale because the C minor 7 is in fact a mode of the B flat major 7 chord, but we're going to stick with just using the chord tones. So we're actually playing this really clear and nice structure over the C minor 7 chord that's different. That's going to give us that interesting sound. So if we take the 4 chord tones of a B flat major 7 chord, we have B flat, D, F, and A, and we're going to use that over the top of the C minor 7 chord. So check out what that sounds like. I'm going to do, about 30 seconds of playing just using that B flat major 7 arpeggio, and check out what it sounds like over a C minor 7 bed. So you can hear it gives me those nice, interesting notes, and it also, I'm playing in the key of B flat major. So it sounds really cool because I'm actually physically playing in a different key than the one that's being comped out underneath it, right? And you can hear one of the notes that I really, really, really like is that 13 or 6. That is such a great note over minor chords because it's fairly dissonant and it gives you that very interesting kind of mysterious sound over a minor chord. So if you're at a loss for what to play over some minor chords to make them more interesting, that is a great, great note to maybe center some of your ideas around. Okay, so that is B flat major 7 over the C minor 7 chord. The next chord we're going to do is we're going to take a triad, just like we did last week. And this is going to be the triad based on the 9th, just like it was last week. So if you go up to the 9th of a C minor 7 chord, you get D. Now we're going to base a minor triad, a D minor triad, and that's going to give us our 9, 11, 13, which is very similar to the B flat major 7 triad, except we're just taking the B flat out of it. Now we're just using extensions, and this one's a little bit more clear because, again, the clearest way to outline a tonality is by playing its triad. So we're really going to sound like we're playing in D minor over the top of this C minor 7th chord. And this is the third exercise on your sheet. So check out what D minor over C minor 7 sounds like. So again, it's very, very similar to the last exercise that I played for you guys, but we're omitting the seventh and just using purely extensions on that one. So it does have a little bit of a different sound to it. And then finally, what I would like to do is show you how I kind of mix everything up where I'm actually using those root chord tones, the 1, 3, 5, and 7, but I'm incorporating them in with the extensions, which is that's what you're going to end up doing. I mean, you can choose to play just the extensions, but when we get going and we're actually improvising, we're going to end up playing some of the chord tones as well. So here's what it kind of sounds like all mixed together. This is a B flat major and also a D minor triad chord tones over the C minor chord. And this is a little bit more how I would handle it if I was playing for real and was in action on a gig or at a jam session or something like that. I'm going to incorporate everything in together. Here's 8 quick bars of what that sounds like. All right, so there you have your minor chord extensions. I hope this helps everybody out there. Next week for part 3, we're going to be getting into the most complicated one, which is the dominant chord. As you probably know, the dominant chord has more dissonances in it and more extensions than any other chord, and there's more things that we can do over it. So we're going to get kind of complicated next week, and I'm going to show you a bunch of different stuff that we can use over dominant chords. But hopefully the major and the minor have sort of cleared things up a little bit for you, taught you how to get some of those sounds that you hear on your favorite recordings. It's all in the extensions. It's all in those interesting notes that live above the chord. Make sure you send me any questions that you have, 10minutejazzlesson@gmail.com. I love getting questions from you guys. Got a couple from last week's episode and cleared some things up for some people. So don't hesitate to reach out. That is what I'm here for. All right, everybody, we will see you next week. I hope you have a great one. I hope you had an awesome 4th of July and that your summer is going really, really well so far. We'll see you next week for the brand new episode. Have a good one.